Okay guys, so in just a minute I'm going to be getting my first review, but before I do that I wanted to give you a heads up of how we'll be doing all of our future reviews. So what we did is we brainstormed what we thought were the most important ideas that you guys would care about in our reviews, and we wrote them down on 2 different pieces of paper. For gear reviews we'll be covering functionality, quality and durability, fit and sizing, style and value, and for supplement reviews I can't remember the points. I'll just make sure to include that in my first supplement review as well. But these will help. These will be a baseline for you guys, so you can compare sort of how we do our reviewing, so you can compare different products that we review. Anyway, let's get started here. I have the Nike Free 09 Sparq, and this is my everyday training shoe. So it doesn't see the outside. That's why it's super clean. Sparq is Nike's high performance athlete line. So it really caters to explosiveness. I don't know if you can get a shot here where it says feel more, move better. That's something that that's what the shoe is all about. It's super lightweight. At first glance you'd never guess that it's stable, but it really is. And it has a super cool flat sole, so it sort of mocks a bare foot. A little background about how I sort of found out about this shoe. I have a bunch of friends who play NCAA hockey, and this is their training shoe. So the first time I saw it, I'm like, man, if those guys have it, it has to be a good shoe. So my Asics, my other running shoes and workout shoes were all going bad, so I figured now's the time to go out and take a look at these. So I headed to the store and I gave them a look, and at first glance, to be completely honest, I mean, they caught my eye. They're a super cool looking shoe. They're super unique. But at first glance, after I was messing around with them, I really wasn't that impressed. The lightweight sort of makes them seem flimsy, and quality, at first glance, I was like, these things are not going to hold up. Also, they don't seem very stable either. So I gave them a try. They cost me $65. I figured, you know what, not a big deal for a training shoe. That's not a whole lot of money. So I ended up walking out the door with them. So the first few times I wore them, to be completely honest, I wasn't very impressed by them. It's a big change going from a super padded, super supportive running shoe to these. Again, these are super bare bones shoes, super lightweight, that flat sole. It's completely different from a running shoe. But a few runs into it, and I really started to love this shoe. Again, 9.6 ounces. It weighs in at 9.6 ounces. That's about half the weight of any other running shoe that I've owned. So it's super lightweight. It's sort of I'd say it's a cross between a running shoe and like a Converse All-Star. It has a flat sole like the Converse, but it does offer a little bit more arch support, and it is, I'd say, a little bit more stable. Again, at first glance, I would never guess it's a stable shoe, but that flat sole really does wonders. It really keeps me well-footed to the ground, which I really like. I've had it for about 4 or 5 months now. I use it, I want to say, 5 to 6 hours a week. Again, it's my main training shoe. I'm big into CrossFit, so you know, I'm running with this shoe. I'm doing Olympic lifts. I'm doing a whole bunch of compound lifts, and that's sort of what brought me into the whole world of the flat-soled shoe, because it's super important to be well-footed to the ground when you're doing those types of lifts. I haven't had any major problems whatsoever with this shoe. If you can get a close-up here, there is sort of a little compression mark down on the sole of the shoe, but I can't contribute that to any major loss in performance. It's really been doing well. The stitching's holding up great. The inner sole of the shoe is like the day I bought it. Tongue and all the other features of the shoe are really holding up great. The rubber on the bottom of the sole, again, holding up really well. I bought a 9.5, or it looks like a 10. That's my average shoe size. I know Nikes tend to run a little bit on the narrow side, so I wouldn't really worry about that with these shoes. Again, I picked up a 10. My average shoe size is a 10. So if you were to just buy these online because you like the way they look or because of this review, just keep in mind, just buy your average shoe size. Don't worry about that whole Nike being narrower thing. As far as style is concerned, I know it's not a huge deal in a gym shoe or in a running shoe. You just need something that performs really, really well. But I happen to think, again, one of the main reasons I was drawn to this shoe is because its unique look. I think it's super cool looking and it performs really, really well. So you can't hate on that. That's the best of both worlds. I picked it up for $65. I think I mentioned that earlier. You know, I haven't been able to find a better shoe for that price. That's cheap for any shoe, let alone a really, really high performance shoe. I've had Asics, Sauconys, Adidas, other Nikes, shoes that have cost me $120, and I would easily say these blow those out of the water. I don't know what it is. They fit my foot really, really well, and maybe it's the type of training I do, but they work perfectly for me. So I'd really, really recommend these to anyone who's really, I'd say, anybody who's doing anything athletic, whether it be running. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, now that I mentioned running, when I first bought the shoes, another thing I noticed was they seemed to put a lot of pressure on my knees. And I've had knee problems in the past, and I wasn't really looking forward to that. But after they broke in, I think really what it was is the lack of padding. So again, I just needed to get used to the shoe. But anyway, great shoe. I'd recommend it to anyone who's doing anything athletic. Just, I can't say enough good about it. So if you have any more questions, we have a really cool write-up on it over on the blog. It breaks it down and gets a little bit more technical. Just make sure that you rate the video 5 stars and you subscribe, and I'll have a bunch of cool reviews coming your way in just a little bit. So stick around.